Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and today we're going to talk about Class 3 space closure mechanics. And I've done a video on Class 2 space closure mechanics. I also had a decent picture to show you. I don't have a picture that I have a release on to show you Class 3 space closure mechanics. So I'm just going to verbally explain it to you. If you have a case that comes up like that, it might make more sense by looking at it. So what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about a major skeletal Class 3 patient. I'm talking about a patient that's either a tiny bit Class 3 and has some spaces, whether you extracted or just has maybe some maxillary spacing or mandibular spacing too. And you're trying to make sure you close those spaces in a most efficient way. And the biggest mistake I see doctors make in my consulting practice is they just throw a bunch of chain on, 6 to 6, which means molar to molar, and add Class 3 mechanics. Class 3 elastics. Well, that's extremely risky because it very well might work depending on how much space there is. But what can happen is if the patient isn't totally compliant, you're going to lose that space and it's going to go in the wrong direction to close and you're screwed. And now you have an edge-to-edge bite or you still have a negative overjet. And then you're basically taking out a lower incisor, right? Or lower bis, or opening up space for restorations on the top or implants or something like that. So let's talk about what I call, it's a little tedious, but it really, really works. And it gives you a lot of control and it makes the compliance issue not as much of a big deal. So I call this Class 3 space closure beads on a string mechanics. That's actually what I call it. And like I said, I don't have a good picture. I mean, you don't see these cases all the time, so I'm just gonna verbally explain it to you. Yes. Class 3, spacing beads on a string mechanics. So the reason why I call it beads on a string is if you have a long, think of a kid. They're in school and they are almost like an abacus. There's a bunch of like beads, right? On a pole or on a string. And let's say you had to move the beads from one side to another. Well, most likely you're going to move one at a time, right? If you just try to grab them, then I guess it's not the best analogy, things almost like tug of war. If you just grab, then the other ones are going to slip as you pull against the other ones, right? So we want to use our anchorage as much as possible so that we get the ultimate best, most space closure we can. And yes, of course, you can use TADs and other things and other kinds of anchorage, but I'm trying to do this without surgical issues. So let's talk about this. So if the patient just has upper spacing, this is what you're going to do. If they have lower spacing, I recommend putting an LLHA in. And an LLHA is a lower lingual holding arch. So that's what I do for the lower spacing because that's amazing anchorage. You can just chain the whole thing depending on where the bar is. If the bar is really close up to the front teeth, you might be able to retract at least the canines on the LLHA. And then undertie those from canine all the way back to second molar, and then remove the appliance and chain the front. So, but for top, it doesn't help you to have an appliance in. So for top spacing, I recommend doing this. So maxillary spacing, you're going to close the space in units, aka beads on a string. Start with chaining 3 to 3 on top, which is canine to canine. Once that space is all closed and the teeth are uprighted, so just because it looks closed doesn't mean the roots are uprighted. The roots need to be uprighted. So you may need to go another month or so after the space actually looks visually closed. Visualize to make sure it's uprighted. You can always confirm with a radiograph. Probably not necessary with experience. Once you do that, then I do long tie or under tie of the max 3 to 3. That's just not just one twist. And I have a lot of videos, so if anything I'm mentioning doesn't make sense, from LLHA to long tie to under tie, all these keywords, anchorage, are if you go into my YouTube channel, which is StraightSmile Solutions, and if you don't know how to do this, send me an email at info@straightsmilesolutions.com and I will show you how to do this. But just look for these different keywords. These keywords will pop up their own video that goes more into detail. I'm assuming when you're listening to this video that you kind of know what all these words mean already. If you don't, we need to take a step back and learn all the basics before you can learn this more complicated movement. So long tie or under tie max 3 to 3. Once that's uprighted, then, long tie max 3 to 3. Couple twists, like make sure it's really, really tight long tie, okay? Once you do that, then I'm gonna go ahead and put the chain on 4 to 4. 3 to 3 is under tied. You can also just chain 3 to 4, which is canine to first premolar, but 4 to 4 looks nicer for the patient. And then once those basically you're protracting the teeth on top to close the space instead of retracting, which is what you want to do in a class 3 case, right? Once the 4s have mesialized or protracted all the way up to the 3s in a unit, okay, and they've uprighted, remove your undertie from 3 to 3 and redo the undertie from 4 to 4. You get the idea? Twist that up nice and tight. Now chain to the 5s. Chain 5 to 5. Do the same thing and repeat to the 6s and repeat to the 7s. All the while you're using class 3 elastics. Now, it is tedious and it's gonna take time. So people love to close space en masse or in units, but you're gonna slip anchorage if you do that. And if you have a class 3 case, you wanna try to get class 1, right? So this is the quote unquote right way to do it. And eventually all the space will close. The patient should hopefully be class 1 and you became a hero taking a class 3 case and turning it into a class 1 case with really, really good mechanics. Now, at some point, if you've maybe overestimated what's possible or the patient has been a little less than compliant on the elastics are still important. They still help. Then if you start to get an edge-to-edge bite, I put this here, at any time, and you still have space left. You don't have space left and you get the edge-to-edge bite, okay, that's all right. You can either try to remove the undertie and see if they can just wear elastics for a month and see if it'll correct. If it doesn't, just do a little lower IPR and chain the lower and keep those elastics going until you get the positive overjet again. If it's a major, major underbite still and you've done all this, you extract a central incisor. Or you can open up space around the upper laterals or upper 2s for veneers or bondings. But that's pretty much it. That's class 3 space closure beads on a string mechanics.